Look at that. Isn't that a great layout? You son of a gun.
This campaign is no good.
No good!
Darren and Larry, the original Mad Men on Bewitched.
Hi, I'm John Malos. Glad to be back live here on the showroom floor at Ventura TV. Today, connect with me. Hey, one of your favorite topics, maybe one of my favorite topics. We have a divorce attorney in the house today. We're talking divorce. If you're going through one, thinking about filing, it's Ask the Expert. Your phone calls are important. 265-4331. Back in a moment with our live program. And welcome back to the program. We are live here on the showroom floor once again on a Thursday. It's Ask the Expert Day, and we're talking to a divorce attorney. But before we move forward, I got to say, I was off last week, had the flu, I was sick, and our entire staff was gone for part of this week. But I just want to thank Randy Reed and Lauren Boothillier, who did an outstanding job for filling in for me for 3 or 4 days, 5 days, I guess it was last week. They did a terrific job. I also, in case you didn't notice, I also want to thank Geraldo, Nelson Mandela, and Dennis Rodman actually flew in from North Korea to anchor the show. Did you see that show with Kim Jong-un? Anyway, Dennis Rodman, what a guy to show up here in Fresno to host my show while I was sick. Anyway, my thanks to Dennis Rodman and all the rest. I know what are you, smirking? Anyway, I was glad to have Randy Reed and Lauren fill in for me last week. There's something wrong with me still, I think. Anyway, we're going to be talking about marriage, and we're going to be talking about divorce, and we've got the numbers, and we've got the attorney right here in our studio. But first, let's put some numbers up on the screen. Back in 2008, these are approximate figures, so they're not exact. 2008, 2009, and 2010, you had roughly 3,800 divorces in Fresno County. There's nothing to compare that to the rest of the state, because the state of California does not require the court system to follow the numbers accurately. Now, this came from the Healthy Marriage Coalition. They had a partner over there at the Fresno County Court. That is how they got those numbers. So we're going to be talking divorce. 265-4331 is the number. Live in our studio right now is Jennifer Morrison. She's been a divorce attorney here in Fresno for many, many, many years. She knows every divorce attorney in town. She's here to answer your questions if you're thinking about filing. Divorce is a big issue right now. They say 1 in every 2 marriages will in fact fail over the course of time. That's not only here in Fresno and in California, but across the country. So it's a hot topic. It's a big issue. 265-4331. You're back with Connect with Me, live here in the studio with me. It's not Randy Reed, and it's not Lauren, and certainly it's not Dennis Rodman. We're back with more of Connect with Me in just a moment.
Frigidaire. We introduced the first home freezer, the first pulsator agitator washer, and now we introduce the Frigidaire Orbit Clean Dishwasher, designed with a unique wash arm that gives you 4 times more water coverage for a consistently better clean. Frigidaire, over 90 years of legendary innovation.
See the full line of Frigidaire appliances at Ventura TV Electronics and Appliances.
All right, you've got some questions. If you got a family member that's going through a divorce or wants a divorce, or maybe yourself, or maybe a friend, or your neighbor across the street, or your neighbor next door. So 265-4331. Don't be bashful. Pick up the phone and call. We've got Ask the Expert Day here. Jennifer Morrison is here. Hi, Jennifer. How are you?
Fine. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. You look great today.
Thank you.
So you're glad to be here?
I'm glad to be here.
To talk divorce?
I am.
It's your livelihood.
It is my livelihood.
Why did you decide to get into it?
Well, when I became an attorney, I wasn't sure what area I wanted to get into, but I kind of fell into this because I kept getting clients in this area and found that I thought I had a knack for it because they're going through real traumatic times.
Yeah.
So in addition to representing their interests, maybe there needs to be some nurturing, and I guess I have that quality, and so it just worked out for me.
Well, you know, it is Ask the Expert Day, so let's take a phone call. We got a quick one right off the bat here. Good morning. You're on Connect with Me. How are you?
I'm great.
Hey, good. What's your question? Quickly, you're on the air.
Oh, okay, great. I'm sorry, thanks. I'm on Social Security disability. My son, who's 17, gets a portion of that. If I file for divorce, will he still be eligible to get my Social Security?
That's actually not my area of the law, but I believe that filing for divorce would not interfere with that right. But it wouldn't be the divorce courts that would govern whether there was continuing eligibility.
That would be up to Social Security, I would assume. You'd have to call them and probably get the all the particulars on what the law states in regards to that. So it's in regards to your son, it wouldn't be for your ex-wife, right?
That's correct.
Big difference. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right. See you later. Thank you. All right. Let's talk a little bit about, let's put some other numbers up on the screen before I get into the divorce part. The highest divorce rate. Let's do that first. Nevada, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Wyoming. I have no idea why these states have the highest divorce rate. Hey, how about the lowest across the nation? These are national figures. You've got Massachusetts, Connecticut, New Jersey, Rhode Island, and New York. Those are the top 5 lowest. In California is the 21st lowest, but they don't require for anyone to keep stats here in the state of California. I don't know, do those numbers kind of surprise you a little bit?
Maybe so. I guess I would think that California might be a little higher up on the ranking, but I really don't keep track of that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's get into the divorce part because there are 2 different phases to this. There's one, if you have kids, and a lot of people do, you have to go through the custody part of the divorce. And then the second phase of that would be the financial settlement, whatever that might be. If you have a house, a boat, if you have money in the bank, whatever that settlement might be. And then all of that's combined into one. Explain the process a little bit.
The process is that you initiate the proceedings, and then...
By doing what?
By filing a petition for dissolution of marriage.
Okay, you do that with the court?
Yes, it's filed with the court, and then that has to be served on your spouse. There doesn't have to be a phase 1 and a phase 2, but there often is, and the reason for that is there's a 6-month waiting period in California to get a divorce. So oftentimes during this 6 months or year or whatever it takes for your divorce to be finalized, we need to get some temporary orders in place. Who's going to take care of the kids? Who's going to make the house payments? Perhaps one person might need some support. So you go to court and get the temporary orders first, and then you generally deal with the permanent orders on those issues and the property at a second stage. Although the court is changing its procedure somewhat to move the cases, so I think we're going to start find ourselves where we're kind of addressing everything pretty much at the same time at the beginning.
Instead of doing it separately.
Right.
Well, those are 2 separate issues. Now, why is there getting back to the statement that you made about the 6-month cooling period, what is that all about? Why is that in place?
I haven't researched that issue, but I believe it's been in place for quite some time, and it was a waiting period with the hope that, having gone through that waiting period, people might reconcile.
Right. They're hoping that maybe they can get back together, work out their differences. Fat chance, right?
Well, some people do.
Really?
It makes me happy.
How often does that happen, really?
Well, I think...
How often do you see it?
Not very often, because once they come and hire me and they're ready to get the process going, they've made the decision. But I'd say we probably have 3 to 5 a year that cancel because they've reconciled, or many times they'll put them on hold while they try to work things out. We have a lot of those.
Now you have to file a petition with the court. That means you have to fill papers out and with the court and then file them. At that point, do you have to hire an attorney, or can you go to a paralegal? Can you do it online? If you do hire an attorney, what's the process there? You're an attorney, you've been doing it for a long time. So what happens then?
Well, as to whether you have to hire an attorney, you don't have to hire an attorney. I can't really talk about those other processes because I don't do them, but I know that I believe if you can have an attorney, that first of all, that way you know things will be done correctly. And sometimes there's some very complicated issues, and you need to have an attorney to make sure that you're protected many years in the future, based upon what the settlement was.
Right.
But some people do hire paralegals. Some people might go on the internet and do documents. I don't know. I mean, the paperwork at the beginning is not that extensive. It's the process that can be extensive.
Okay, now let's get into the cost. It can be costly, right, if you hire an attorney. Like, for example, most attorneys, correct me if I'm wrong, require a deposit.
A retainer.
A retainer, a deposit or a retainer. Usually that's could be anywhere from $3,000 to $6,000, right?
Yes.
So
or
it
more.
can't- or more in some
depending
cases.
upon the complexities of the case. And that retainer goes into the attorney's trust account. So it's not the attorney's money, but it's there as security for payment. So then when the attorney works on the case, I once a month write a check from the trust account for the fees that we've incurred from the different retainers.
Okay, so the fees that you've incurred from the court, like different filings that you may
For
have
doing
to make?
all the work that we do, whether it be talking with the client about the problems they have or negotiating because issues have arisen, we can't agree on who's going to have the kids this
Right.
weekend or what have you, so we have to call the other attorney and reach an agreement. Those things are all billed. Any work we do on a client's case is
Right.
billed.
So let's say I give you $10,000. Okay, now that goes into into like a separate account, like a retainer fee.
Trust account.
A trust account right here. So each month you tally up, okay, how many phone calls, how many filings, how many this, how many that, and then you cut yourself a check from that account
Correct.
to cover the expenses and also to pay yourself. I mean, you can't work for free.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So that's kind of how it works.
Yes, that's how it works.
And that's why it's so expensive.
Well, I think the reason it's so expensive is because divorce can require a lot of time, the various issues that can rise, especially if
Such
there's
as?
kids. If you have kids involved. Custody, if you go to court at that first stage to get the temporary orders, can be an expensive process. And then once you're done with that, you have temporary orders, but you still need to decide who's going to get the house and the car and the pension plans. So
Right.
all of these things
Right.
take time and work and paperwork. There's a lot of paperwork involved in divorce.
And just because you drop temporary orders as to who's going to have the kids, when, where, what day, doesn't mean that's going to be in the permanent orders.
That's correct.
That could change. Okay,
That's
we'll talk
correct.
more about that after the break. We're talking with Jennifer Morrison. Your phone calls are encouraged at 265-4331. Hey, today we're talking about divorce. It's not an easy thing. It can be a nasty business, but you know what? It's a necessary evil. Sometimes it just happens. Life happens. So we're going to be back with our guest, Jennifer Morrison, 265-4331. If you want advice, call in. See you in a minute.
Weeknights on MeTV. Who loves you, baby?
You shouldn't ask.
It's Kojak
Well, it sounds like music to my ear.
on MeTV.
Look at me.
Why do we love him?
Maybe it's the way I comb my hair.
Or maybe it's his trusty right-hand man.
More bite? Cracker! Cracker! Cracker!
Well, I just wanted to hear how it sounded.
Telly Savalas is Kojak.
Story of my life, baby.
Weeknights at 12:30, 11:30 Central on MeTV.
Who loves you?
It's Ask an Expert Day here on Connect with Me, live on the showroom floor. 265-4331 is the number if you want advice on divorce and how to go through the proceedings and what you might or should do in your case, or if you have a friend or a family member going through the same thing. 265-4331. We have a phone line that is open. Jennifer, let me ask you, it gets nasty sometimes. I know I had a very nasty public divorce myself. I went through it, and how does it get nasty? I mean, do they fight over kids? Do they fight over money? It can be long, drawn out process. Why?
They can fight over anything that they choose to fight over, and not.
So let's say they don't agree about the kids, how to handle the kids. No, I don't want you to have them on the weekends. I want to have them on the weekends. I don't want this. I don't want that. What happens when they disagree? Then what happens?
Then one person will file a motion to get it into court, and basically the court will decide. There's a process through the court. They will go to a mediator who will sit down with the two of them and try to help them reach an agreement. But if they can't reach an agreement, then the mediator will make a recommendation to the court.
And the judge will decide.
And the judge will decide, and he will look to that recommendation, but that's where it's important, if you can, to have an attorney to argue or persuade the judge perhaps to change the recommendation if that's what you're seeking.
Okay, another phone call. Good morning, you're on Connect with Me. How are you?
Good morning. It couldn't have always been like that in California. 1 in every 2 marriages ending contentiously or in divorce or separation. My question for your guest today is, doesn't it make more sense that mediation should be court mandated? I mean, it seems like so much judges' time, so much legal time is taken up trying to work out the details of somebody's marriage when it should be up to the two parties involved to try to work it out amongst themselves. Are you an advocate of pre-divorce mediation, intense mediation? Thank you.
Thank you. I am an advocate of resolution and settlement. I am an advocate of staying out of court whenever possible. And I think the courts and the judges also encourage resolution.
Yeah.
I always tell my clients that I believe that it's better for everybody involved if you can resolve it. And what I try to do in all
You mean resolve it within your, amongst yourselves?
Correct.
Or
Resolve all the issues. So basically we determine what are all the issues in this case, and then we sit down and try to come up with a plan.
Okay, so what you're saying is call up your spouse and say, look, let's agree on who gets the house, who gets the boat, how do we handle the kids, and then we'll go to the attorney and tell them, draw this up, this is what we want.
And
Is that what you're saying?
That, or if you can't do that, your attorneys do it. And your attorneys may do it between the two of them because they have spoken with their clients and they know the parameters of what they're
Okay.
hoping to get. Or the four of you can sit down, which often happens, and resolve the case.
Are there some attorneys, and I don't think you're one of them, but are there some attorneys that purposely throw a monkey wrench in there to draw this thing out and maybe prolong the process?
There may be opinions that attorneys are doing that. I have no evidence that anyone's ever done it, but there's sometimes a thought that someone might be delaying things because,
Maybe they want more money.
Yeah, and if that, I also tell my clients that when they ask me how much a case will cost, I can never say the cost because I don't know my opponent. I don't know if they're going to want to come to my office, sit down, and resolve the case, or if we're going to have to go through the court and go there 5 times.
You're not going to know how long it's going to last either. It could last a year. It could last 2 years.
Correct.
And why do these cases last that long sometimes? I know
Well-
mine lasted a couple of years it took to finalize.
There's a variety of reasons. I mean, the court system, first of all, and we've got budget cuts that are making it tougher to get court dates, and so those are months out in the future. But also, if there's property issues, it often takes time to gather all of the documents and information we need to determine the distribution of those assets.
Right, right. And the kids, if there are kids involved.
And if there's kids involved, then you go through the court process if you can't agree, and you've got mediation. Sometimes if there's issues, the court might order a psychological evaluation. That takes time.
On who? On both parties?
On the family.
The whole family,
on the
including the
unit.
kids?
Well, the parents, and then they'll include the children with the parents if they're trying to determine who the children should live with.
Yeah.
They might do that.
How many cases would you say that you're handling at one time? I know this may not be the case with every single attorney. They probably have different amount of cases, but how many would you say you handle in, say, a month?
In a month? You mean handle? I guess I don't know what you mean.
How many cases do you have on the desk, pending, let's say, that you're working on at the same time?
Active cases in our office, I
active
think
cases.
about 100, but I really don't know the answer to that question, but I think
Right.
about 100. But there, I may have a case in my office and the court date's not till June, and everything's
yeah.
done, so we're waiting for that. Or we may have settled and we're waiting for papers from the court or what have you.
Right. All right, we're talking with Jennifer Morrison. We've got more to come here on Connect with Me. We're going to take a time out here talking about divorce in California and around the nation. Of course, the numbers are high, and sometimes you just need an attorney to get it all straightened out. And so what's your question? Well, I don't know. I'm asking you. What is your question? 265-4331. We're back in a moment. If you've got a question, call in.
Is taking care of laundry taking too much of your time? Have you become a missing mom? With a new fast, efficient washer and dryer from Ventura TV Video Appliance, you'll spend more of your day the way you want.
This Amana Super Capacity Washer Dryer Pair is now just $6.99, and this heavy-duty Maytag Super Capacity Washer Dryer Pair is only $8.99.
Don't spend your life on laundry. Upgrade today at Ventura TV Video Appliance and save.
And we're back. I'm going to push the phone number one more time, 265-4331, if you want to call in and ask a question if you're going through some bad times and need some advice. Let's put some numbers up on the screen one more time. There's a study out, a national study, that talks about divorce. Look at this one. 59% of all marriages across the country for women under the age of 18 end in divorce within 15 years. So, how do you like that? That shouldn't surprise anybody, right, Jennifer? I mean, it just happens.
That wouldn't surprise me. I usually tell people to try to wait if they can.
Yeah.
I believe in that.
What's the prime age, in your opinion, to get married? Just based on what you see day in and day out from all the divorce cases that come across your desk.
I've never been asked that question, but I think I'd say about 30.
You think 30?
Because you've kind of gone through the 20s where there's a lot of growing. Even though we think we know everything, you realize you don't. So I'd say about 30.
About 30.
Or later.
Yeah. And even then, there's no guarantee it's going to work out.
There never is. No, there never is.
There's no guarantee. So when someone comes into your office, let's say for the first time, they've never been through a divorce, they come in, what's the biggest problem that you see with people?
I don't know if it's a problem. I think
biggest concern
is when they're emotionally devastated. That's also heartbreaking for me, but it also makes it hard for them to make good decisions or accept realities, perhaps, because they're focused on the emotional experience they're going through.
So it can be an emotional, a mental process for anyone going through a divorce, because it can be very devastating for them, right? And so is that part of the reason sometimes it can take longer, because they're thinking, well, you know, I got to try to work things out. I want things to work out. Maybe this is not really happening. This is not what he or she wants. Is that part of it too?
That can be. We have some cases where our client really doesn't want to move the case because they don't really want the divorce. But once the other side starts filing papers or wants to do things to move the case,
there's no way to stall it then, right?
Not unless you want to use delay tactics or things like that, but I really don't generally do that. If we have a court date, we've got to deal with it.
So it can be an emotionally devastating time. And so what happens if somebody files and they refuse to sign the papers? One party can refuse to sign. What happens then?
No, well, are you talking about signing
the final decree?
Then that means we don't have an agreement and we have to go to court and have a judge decide. There might be a misunderstanding. When one person files for divorce, they serve the other person.
I understand.
And the other person has to appear in the case.
Well, they have to appear, but I'm talking about when everything gets settled and then the final judgment comes out and you have to sign that.
And if they don't,
what if you don't sign it?
Then you set a hearing and you go to court and you ask the judge to make decisions.
Okay.
You can't force anybody to settle. So if you can't settle, then you go to court and the judge will make the decisions.
Wow, that's interesting. And so how devastating can it be for a family? It can be devastating for the kids. It can be devastating for individuals.
Emotionally and financially.
Yeah, emotionally, it can wipe a person out, can it?
Yeah.
And you've seen it happen.
Yes, and I hate when that happens, and I try to avoid it as best as I can by trying to keep the fees down and trying to control the case. But, you know, you're taking a family who is relying on a certain amount of income to live a certain way, and then suddenly it's divided up, and we have two households. So everybody has to adjust, and that's difficult.
Right, and how much more difficult is it when the other attorney or the other party doesn't want to cooperate?
It's more difficult. It's a source of frustration in my office when we can't get responses or voluntary disclosure of information and we have to go through the court process to do it, it's a frustration because it costs our clients more, and we
Right.
prefer not to do that.
All right. Do certain individuals accuse their spouse of, say, spousal abuse, abusing the kids, to get an advantage in court? Does that happen too?
I believe that it does. You know, you never know for sure, generally, when someone says something, whether or not it's true. But
What do you do in a case if it's not true?
you know, when I meet with my clients, I want to do the best for them, and I try to have a trusting relationship with them so that they can be honest with me. If someone were to make these claims to me and I believed them, and or even if I wasn't sure if this was the position they were taking and it's presented to the court, then the other side is going to have to respond to it. And hopefully, once all of the facts are known, the truth will come out.
Right, and in this case, or any case, it could be a mediator, it could be a judge deciding, what's going to happen.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So does divorce bring out the worst in people sometimes?
It can. It can.
In what way?
Well, sometimes they're mad, they're angry. Sometimes people have been married for 20 years. I mean, I can't even comprehend what it would be like to have a long marriage fall apart. Or maybe one person has stepped out or has a new relationship. That can create a lot of hurt feelings and hostility sometimes.
Right. And, I've heard this before, but I don't know what the answer is. If someone is caught cheating on their spouse, is that cause for divorce? Is that cause for giving someone more than what they deserve? Or
No.
how does that play into the divorce if you're cheating on your spouse?
It doesn't.
It doesn't? Not at all?
California is a no-fault state.
Okay.
So, and that's often hard for our clients to understand sometimes, but we explain it to them, and I really don't need to know that information. The only way that would come into play is if it affects the children, and it generally doesn't because it's not done around the children.
Right.
So,
Right.
and that's often hard for clients to understand.
What is your advice? Because there's so many choices out there for attorneys or a paralegal or to do it online. How do you advise somebody, our viewers out there that might be watching, how would you advise them as to how to choose an attorney, how to choose a paralegal? What steps should you take if your spouse files a motion for divorce?
Well, a good way to get an attorney, I think, is through word of mouth. So if you know somebody who's had an attorney and they're happy
Right.
with the services they received, that's a good way. Otherwise, meet with the attorney, talk with them.
Does it cost anything to meet with you or any attorney?
It does. There's a
Okay.
I charge $200 for a consultation.
Okay.
And we say it's a 30-minute consultation, but we never look at the clock. We just do it's usually about
Right.
an hour, probably on average.
Right.
So that when they leave, they know pretty much how things are going to go and what I think about how their case should proceed. I always give them a case plan.
Okay, if someone wants to contact you, do you have a website? Do you have a phone number? Obviously you do. How do they get in touch
Phone
with you?
number is 225-4300. Website is JSMlegal.com.
Okay. Before we go, we got about 30 seconds. What's the one thing, if someone wants to come to you for advice on how to get a divorce, what's the one thing that you can promise them above anything else?
What I can promise them is that we will do our best to take good care of them, be responsive to them. I can just promise what we can provide them. I can't really make any promises as to the outcome of the case because I don't know at that point.
Yeah.
And I never really know what the outcome's going to be. I know the parameters of it. So what I can do is promise what we can do.
All right, Jennifer, we got to go. We're going to get cut off. But Jennifer
Okay.
Morrison, thank you. Come back again sometime.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
All right.
Okay.
Jennifer Morrison, our guest today, a divorce attorney. Thank you for being here. We're live on the showroom floor of Ventura TV. Tomorrow, Mark Pazin. He's the sheriff of Merced County. We'll talk to him and have your phone calls. Have a great day.
And here goes.
Some shows force you to laugh. But with Mary Tyler Moore, laughter comes easily. Mary Tyler Moore. More laughs and more.
The more the merrier.
It'll tickle your funny bone.
Would you like to borrow a feather?
Weeknights at 9, 8 Central on MeTV.
That's all, folks.
Do you like me?
Just like me.
Like MeTV Fresno on Facebook. Get the latest news, interact with others, watch videos, become a fan of me. Exclusively brought to you by Ventura TV.